most of us are working. Some companies where most of us are working, we don't deal much with workplace transportation, but somehow along the line, transportation is very, very important. Why some of us are involved in heavy logistics, which involve transportations of different facets, and that makes most of us who are health and safety professionals in one way or the other get involved with the management of workplace transportation. And that is why this topic is very, very vital for now and for the future in our career. So basically, yeah, we'll be speaking for about 30 minutes, and I just want to walk you through the basic housekeepings, which you already know. Just keep your phones on silent and you can pick your call, but just make sure that we sanitize the input of noise while we carry on with the training. Yes, so I will go straight to talk about the learning outcomes. We will be exploring and explaining the hazards and the control measures for the safe movement of vehicles within our workplace. And we also intend to outline the factors which are associated to driving at work and to increase the risk of an incident and the control measures to reduce work-related driving risk within our workplace. Yeah. So some of you, as I know, as professionals, we may have come through this topic. So this will sound as an eye-opener to some of us, while it will sound as a refresher to some of us. So let's just flow with it as we proceed, yeah? So basically, one will want to wonder why we talk about workplace transportation. When we talk about workplace transportation, most people, especially from the layman point of view, we just think about driving vehicles. Some of us think about trucks and equipment, but transportation goes beyond that, especially for those of us who work in logistics company and those who work with, for example, warehouse operation or manufacturing companies, whereby you see different type of equipment being used for transportation in the workplace. This can span from heavy duty equipment to as small as a forklift to even battery operated um, trolleys in the workplace. So we've got, due to technology, there are a lot of categories of equipment today which we can categorize to be used for workplace transportation. So they span from vans, cars, forklifts, compact dumpers, tractors, large good vehicles, and mobile crane. And the incredible thing here is that each of these ones expose us to risk, exposes the employees who are working for the organization to risk, and also exposes the public to risk. So in as much as we try to safeguard the health and safety of the people or employees within an organization, we are still exposing the general public to risk once we are using workplace transportation system in the workplace. So basically, let's look at what can happen once we are involved in workplace transportation activities. So accidents between pedestrians and vehicle can happen, and they can be tracked back to excessive speed. Most of them, most times you find out that once these accidents happen after the investigations, it is related mostly to excessive speeding. Okay, so many of the risks can be significantly reduced by effective transport management system. This is what the ILO thinks about it. But traditionally, yeah, once you are trying to make a risk assessment to actually see, could it be that it's only workplace overspeeding that can actually result to accidents? No, technically, no. There are other areas we'll be discussing about today that are not related to overspeeding, but can also result to accident as we proceed. And at the end of the day, once there is a workplace transport accident, which means probably man-equipment interface, the people, the employees, the public, they suffer from it, and it becomes a big problem to manage, and sometimes tend to increase insurance and others for the organization. Now, let's have a quick look at some of the hazards in vehicle operations. The first statistics you see from the top is related to the UK, whereby you have over 70 people killed and 5,000 people injured every year in the UK with respect to collision between people and vehicles, people who falling from vehicles, people who are being struck by objects falling from vehicles, struck by overturning vehicles, injured while inside a vehicle during collision, or communication problem between the driver and the employees and members of the public. So now, when we're talking about workplace transportation, one may want to wonder, like, okay, is it physically for a vehicle to hit someone? Is that accident? No. Workplace incident when it comes to transportation is far beyond the scope of what an average layman thinks in his mind. Yeah, there is a lot. Even people get to have accident while sitting inside an equipment that is operational within the workplace. So we're going to explore that as we also move ahead. So to the right of the screen is just a snapshot of what workplace accident has actually cost the world. So these are global statistics, putting Africa to the top. It means that per every 100,000 inhabitants per year, in Africa alone, we've got 26.6% of accident rates in Africa as the highest in the world, and having Europe as the least continent where we have workplace accident related issues with vehicles, equipment, etc. And if you have a quick look, Nigeria has been placed at 20.5% in Africa itself. So we are really on a high side in the sense that the management of workplace transport, irrespective of what we have in place in Nigeria, even with the road safety core, it's still very, very alarming. It means that we have a lot to do. And if we apply best principles, international and local legislations, we should be able to get there and to improve this. And these statistics for Nigeria is based on the fact so far in 2013 onward. Yeah. So some causes of accidents when we are operating vehicles within the workplace or vehicles that are owned by our organizations. So some of the causes of accident is when the vehicle is moving too fast, or when the vehicle is moving through sharp corners or trying to bend, when the vehicle is reversing, silent operation of vehicles. That's where you have the electric vehicles technology today, which is a big problem. It is good for the environment, but it is dangerous for safety because they have no noise and it can hit and strike against someone, impact someone without that person knowing. Then we've got issues with poor visibility when vehicles are moving. This could be during foggy or when there is poor illumination. And we have overturning when vehicles are driving or maneuvering through slopy or uneven roads. Then when vehicles are not moving, we have some other causes of accident with regards to loading and unloading, when securing the load, when coupling, and when vehicle maintenance work is ongoing. So I've had a situation whereby a mechanical engineer who was working on one of the very big equipment in one of our facilities while working with the maritime, he was exposed to a line of fire whereby he was trying to fix a work. The equipment was just pulled off, still very hot. Then the fan belt, when he was trying it, the fan belt disengaged and snapped at him, and it caused him to lose a major part of his left chest, which was a very major issue we've dealt with sometime in my career. So a lot can happen. So other form of hazards that can surface with vehicle operations, these are related to poor road surfaces within the workplace or outside, narrow roads, poor road marking, insufficient crossing points, lack of separation, and lack of barriers. So it is a very good thing to ensure that whenever you are doing the vehicle movement marking or pedestrian marking or marking the floor plan within an organization where vehicles are plying, it's very important that we maintain the one-way traffic system to prevent all of these problems. Yeah. Then we also have lack of signages, poor environmental factor, and we have ill-defined or no speed limits. This is something we really need to bother about, especially in Africa. Speed limit is a very big issue to talk about in Africa. Then we talk about poor vehicle maintenance and lack of driver training. So if you just look at the slide and think about what is applicable in your workplace, you will be very sure to pick lack of driver training. You'll be able to pick poor vehicle maintenance, because most of us, we are mechanics ourselves in Africa. We just fix it and we go on the road. Then we have ill-defined speed limits. This is another big issue that we need to worry about, especially in the workplace. Now, some of the hazards of mobile work equipment. So earlier, about 3 slides ago, I was talking about the type of incidents that can happen while either operating equipment or vehicles, or you are inside the vehicle, or you are within the work environment where vehicles are being used. So we have, because equipments are used in industries, they become inevitable. So somehow humans and people must interfere, and there is a risk there. So that is one of the hazards. The hazards of mobile equipment moving around to and forth, and people around also, they can cause collision and impact. Control measures for safe transport operations. Somehow, sometimes they are inefficient, they are not specific, and they are not properly defined. And that makes it having a vacuum relating to incidents. Employees carried on equipment. So most times, even though the vehicle manufacturing manuals are saying that passengers and one driver only, you find out people having 2, 3 persons in the passenger side. And I can remember way back while I was working with Aspire Consulting in Nigeria, in one of the projects where I worked was the exploration of the oil and gas around Esheno or Masi, that's between Kogi, Anambra, and Enugu State. The blasting, that was for Orient Oil and Gas. I remember that the means of transportation then was basically the use of Helios pickups. And you have 8 to 9 personnel who were going to work from the office, sitting on the bucket of the Helios pickup and taking them to site and bringing them back. And they could travel 2, 3 hours every day, to and fro about 4 hours. And these were very, very wrong means of transportation, but I think it's somehow acceptable in our society. And these are the things we need to look out for. These are the things we really need to start shining our eyes to make sure we put an end to them within our organizations, letting the management understand the risk that are associated to it. Just imagine a Helios truck driving on 80 kilometers per hour, accidentally stepping into a pothole. The people sitting on the bucket backside, they would definitely lose their balance and fall off. And this happens every day, and nobody is talking about it. So we have rollover and falling object protection. So we have the ROPS and FOBs, which we're going to look at now. Then forklift trucks and safe driving. Now, basically, yeah, for the ROPS and the FOBs, the ROPS means rollover protection structure, and the FOBs means falling object protective structure. Now, the rollover means that even though the equipment falls, there should be a firm and a solid structure to protect you from snagging yourself or your body or part of you against other objects. So just for example, a forklift truck toppling over and falling, the person inside on a seatbelt can still be safe because of the structural cage that has been built to protect him. Now, reflect around your organization. You will find out that even most of those forklifts don't have the ROPS core protection covering the operator. We have the mobile cranes. We have other graders and compactors equipment in Nigeria, in Africa, in Ghana, everywhere we have them. You find out that the ROPS requirement is missing. However, we still allow the people to go into operations without having the right safety protection. Why the FOBs is to ensure that whatever falls from the top side above the area where the equipment is operating cannot have a direct impact on the operator. That is why the FOBs are built ruggedly to carry and to sustain certain amount of weight. So that, for example, you're working in let's say you're working in a simultaneous operation environment where you've got tower cranes, you've got high-rise buildings, or you've got other hazards that are above the ground level. Any debris can fall from the top side. A lifted load can fall. You see, in major construction operations where you have mobile cranes, tower cranes, all circulating around, you find out that they are lifting a load above the area where people are working underneath. And when these equipment are driving past, something can drop and strike against them, and that can result to real major accidents in the workplace. So that's the advantage of having the ROPS and the FOBs, and it's something we should look at. Most of us, we have the checklist for safety checklist for equipment. We don't really pay attention to ROPS and FOBs. And please, I'm urging you guys to include this as part of your safety check going forward with regards to your equipment checking. So some of the hazards of mobile work equipment: the poor maintenance, which is very paramount, poor visibility, rough or even ground, carrying passengers incorrectly, and overturning or crushed or struck by vehicles. So these are basic primary causes of accidents within the workplace when using equipment within the workplace. And you even find that traditionally, the drivers, they overload the forklift, they just don't care. Sometimes the load on the front of the forklift is covering that view, like you can see on the braking too hard photo there to the right side. You can find out that the driver cannot even see where he's going, but he's operating it. And overconfidence makes them just have accidents on a daily basis. So some of the hazards of mobile work equipment are basically lack of training, lack of instruction, information, and supervision. And we call this ITIS, information, training, instruction, and supervision. It's a big problem. Then we have poor management procedures and controls in place. Get the business done. We are out for the profit. I don't care how you want to do it, just get it done. It's a big issue without having proper procedures in place to safeguard the safety of the people. Then collision, this can happen, maybe overspeeding, poor visibility or whatnot. This can happen. Then overloading of the vehicles or the trucks or equipment or whatever you're using can also cause accident. General vehicle movement, this where you don't have a proper floor layout for vehicle movement within the workplace, then there's definitely going to be conflict when vehicles are maneuvering around the workplace. So this can either result to collision or vehicle falling, toppling over, etc. Then we have emergencies, whereby there are emergencies. What happens? Mobile equipment tend to react to the emergencies, and they may tend to drive roughly, they may tend to move in a way that is not supposed to be, crossing the traffic lines, running over people, etc. So this can happen due to panic, etc. That's why it's very important when you're planning your drills, the drills within the organization should cover all possible aspects of emergencies, including transportation emergencies. What can happen if things go wrong? How do we react as people who operate equipment within the organization? Then another issue is access and egress problem. So whereby you don't have proper access to a workplace and proper egress off a workplace, it becomes an issue. Vehicles tend to bump into each other. That's why I have suggested as a best practice to maintain one-way traffic system within the workplace. They go through in gate A and they come out through gate B, not vehicles going through gate A and also exiting through gate A. That is very, very wrong. Let's have a quick dive through the control measures. So how can we, after seeing all these problems, all these things that are causing accidents within the workplace, how can we control it? Just three tricks: safe site, safe vehicle, and safe driver. If you are able to fulfill these three, then you should be rest assured that you have minimized the possibility of having man equipment interface incidents up to 90%. So how do they work? Let's have a quick look at a safe site. What does a safe site entails? I can remember as a child who grew up in Warri, those days, I go to Shell in Ejeba in Warri. You cannot pass through the gate. Even if your father works in Shell, then you can't pass through the gate inside, except you walk through this. You have to have an access card, and there are designated walking pathways before you can access Shell. Even the small flow stations that span around Niger Delta region from Edo State down to Cross River State, along Bayelsa and Delta State down, you will find that you cannot access a simple flow station without following strict safety measures which Shell put in place way back those days. And this photo you see was a reflection of what we used to see 35 years ago. But I don't know, and I'm not sure, if these same management practices are replica in our workplaces today. So a safe site should have proper traffic route, properly marked with the right colors. The color symbolizes the uses. So when you see the color, it means it's either safe or it is a danger area or it is a no-go area. Yeah. So sometimes most organizations make use of the green and blue to be safe. Some use the amber, which is yellow, to be a warning area, and the red is a no-go area. So safe traffic routes, environmental conditions should be stable, one-way system and site access, consideration of public safety, because not only the employees should be considered here. Public safety is important because you've got suppliers, you've got contractors, you've got the visitors, you've got people who come to do contract for service and contract of service, etc. Very important. External road users, induction training, which is one thing that is on the top of the list for me. If people are trained, I have this slogan: a trained worker is a safe site. Yeah. Then parking areas and safe system of work for specific activities. And these are the measures you can put in place to ensure you have a safe site. Then another one is the safe vehicle. Sorry, a safe vehicle. So what is it to ensure we have a safe vehicle? Suitability of the vehicle means that the vehicle should be suitable, should be having the right approvals, the right certifications, the right third-party certifications to make sure they are suitable for purpose. We have vehicle maintenance regime, which means you should have what we call a planned maintenance system and visibility within the work area and use of protective system. Now, suitability of vehicle. A 10-ton forklift should not be used to carry loads of 15 tons. But in most cases, we just bypass this basic requirement. And that is why accident has become a very friendly culture within our workplaces. So we should ensure that the vehicle is suited for purpose before using them for those specific purposes. So let's have a look at the safe driver. Who is a safe driver? How do we ensure we get a safe driver to operate our equipment in our workplace? One is the selection and the training of the drivers. It's very important. Is my brother, he's 1 week old in driving, I put him there, you are just exposing more people to more risk. So we should try to avoid those type of stuff. Banksman to assist in reversing, ensuring competency and health checks and wearing PPE. So I think we still have a lot to develop in these areas. Apart from majorly the oil and gas sectors way back home, we still have more issues with regards to especially health check and selecting competent people for our equipment. So this is one thing we should look at. So who is a safe driver? The safe driver ensures that whatever utilities are around the work areas, he's aware of them, like overhead utilities, underground utilities, etc., especially for those who are involved in excavation, whereby in this part of the world, underground utilities like gas lines, water lines, telecom lines, electricity lines, they are all buried on the ground. And the moment you put your excavator to the ground, boom, you have damaged a gas line, and that's going to cause a whole city inability to get heating, inability to cook for up to a week. And you can imagine the disaster that can happen from that. Whereby in Africa, most countries, we have overhead utilities like electric cables, whereby if the height of the equipment um, is having possible proximity to come in contact with overhead utility like electric cables, we should have the culture of having the goalpost system to make sure that we restrict the height to which the equipment are having to these utilities. Then, of course, we talked about maintenance, and that's going to be for the equipment and the road itself, etc. So we have more look at that. So basic control measures. Some of the basic control measures we should look at is during the when employee carried on the equipment. So no employee should be carried on equipment unless it is suitable. So it shouldn't go beyond the requirement and specification of the user guideline of the equipment. Yeah. Then another is the rolling over of work equipment, where there is a risk of overturning when equipment are maneuvering and working in uneven and unbalanced surfaces. This can happen just like you see on the photo there. It's trying to climb a hill whereby the equipment is not stable enough to do that. So proper and suitable equipment should be selected for specific type of activities. Then we have the self-propelled work equipment, requirements where the use of self-propelled work equipment may involve the risk. For example, the equipment that drives itself and at the same time have the capacity to load behind. So the self-loaders, etc. So such requirements should be in place to ensure that the operators and the people who are maneuvering the equipment are very, very much familiar on how to operate and how to use such type of equipment in the workplace. Still on the control measures, earlier we talked about the ROPS, which is the rollover protective structures should be in place in case the equipment topples over or being struck by another equipment or struck against an object. The driver can have a protective frame 360 around him or her to make sure that they are somehow safe, not allowing them to fall out of the cage, the protective cage, and causing further secondary injuries or risk. Any equipment which can overturn through a 90-degree or a 180-degree may be fitted with a ROPS, which is very important. So you know that. Then ROPS fitted by manufacturers must be tested and not adapted by the user. So what we're saying is, once the manufacturer specification is there that this is the kind of ROPS that can be fitted in this equipment, such type of ROPS should be maintained. Sometimes we just take the welder and we say, oh, the protector and the protective cage is damaged. Can you fabricate another one? And the welder is putting the one that is heavier than the original design. These are real problems, and sometimes makes the equipment to malfunction, may not be able to give the specific required protection for the driver, and may also cause more secondary hazards. Sometimes the ROPS that are fitted by the manufacturers allows you to be able to escape. That's why you see that to the left and right side of most of the ROPS are fitted with glass so that if you are trapped, you can easily break it and escape. However, the four frames to the fourth side of it are very heavy. On the next slide, you should see what I'm talking about. Look at the photo here on this very slide. You find out that he's got a protection above his head, but it's not a full covering, covered protection. If this equipment topples over, he's definitely going to fall to the front, back, and right and left. So this is not the suitable type we're talking about, okay? So even though you have the protection with the ROPS, you must still have you must still have your seatbelt on. So it's very important to have your seatbelt on at all time while operating this equipment. So these are the things we check for. So let's have a quick look at the FOBs, which means that you should have a top protection. Whatever debris or any item falling from above the head can be protected. And you see how tough the cage is. Even though it's having a glass fitted on it already, you can find out that it still have a front burglary. In case something is to strike against the driver, it will have a protection. So this is a reinforced cage over the driver cab to provide protection from falling materials and other objects. So these are fitted by the manufacturers. They are tested. They have an NDT test and they have a capacity test, strength, to know how much they can carry. So this equipment, they operate in rugged terrains and rugged construction operations or whatever operations. So they are being built to face the toughness of the category of activities they are built to carry out. So that's why the FOBs and the ROBs are very, very important. What does the ILO say? The ILO has some certain requirements, recommendations for equipment. So this says that transport, earth moving and material handling equipment must follow basic specific requirements. And that's why the ILO will bring you back to the Convention 155 and Recommendation 164 of the ILO, which put a huge burden on the employer to ensure that they provide safe work equipment, safe workplace, safe people, people with right instruction and training and supervision, etc. So the ILO is very clear about this. It says that when you are providing workplace transportation, when you have earth-moving equipment and material handling equipment, you must ensure first that the employees who will handle and use this equipment are safe. So therefore, the employer have a duty on him, on his shoulder, to ensure that they have safe equipment for the people to operate on. So what is a safe equipment? Talking about a safe equipment, we've talked about that earlier, which are equipment that are fit for purpose. They have their relevant third-party certificate. The drivers are trained to operate them. They are serviced and they have planned maintenance servicing regime all the time to make sure they are suited for purpose. Basic requirements, if the equipment are used for lifting, of course, you must be, as an organization, must be complying with the LOLA requirements, PUA requirements, etc. So these requirements must be complied with. Then we have basic markings. This could be markings on the road where the equipment needs to ply. This could be several other type of markings you must put as stickers on the equipment. So just imagine equipment that are used to carry dangerous goods. They should have the relevant GHS marking on them to make sure that they are well symbolized. They can be easily identified to know the type of content which they are being used for, and people can easily get understanding of what the equipments are and the risk and hazard associated to each of them. Brakes, lights, and alarms must be top-notch, properly checked. They must be working. Reversing alarms are very important. Overhead revolving alarm and lighting is very important to know that there's a critical activity going on in that place. And operator equipment and procedure and rules. So basically, even having all these from item 1 to 4, without having basic procedures and safe operating procedures in place, it's very difficult for us to get things done. Let's have a quick look at safe driving. Irrespective of all the problems we may encounter while using equipment, we can also ensure to have drivers who are safe, who can help to minimize the possibility of accidents in the workplace. So during the selection of drivers is very key. It's an important area which we'll be looking at in the next 2 slides. So selection and training of drivers, very important to make sure that with the risk and hazard associated to workplace transportation, we can still manage the risk if we have safe people to operate the equipment. Banksmen is very important. We call them flagmen or banksmen who help the drivers, especially when they are moving aback, where they cannot have 100% visibility. They need banksmen to help them manage that. The management system to ensure driver competency, including local codes of practice. So that's why we have proper monitoring system, ranging from inspections to audits, ranging from having safe operation procedures for drivers and management of workplace transportation to ensure that the people remain safe. So, for the safe driving, drivers of vehicles should follow all recognized rules for safe driving and have a safe working practice checklist. So the checklist is one for the drivers, one for the logistics or health and safety team, depends on your organization setting. So there, what we call daily checklist, which the driver need to check. This is just basic, and the driver is just checking: do I have fire extinguisher? Are the pressures in my tires okay? They're checking the brakes, they're checking the reverse lamps, they're checking if the seat belt is okay, they're checking the lighting if they are okay. They're checking just the basic safety requirements for that equipment to operate. However, you still need to check as health and safety professional, as an organization, we still go further to carry out periodic inspections like once in a month and audits to make sure that this, which the drivers are checking, they're actually being done in the way it should be. Then safe work practice checklist do's and don'ts, which are basic things we can use to manage workplace driving. For management of vehicles, we should have basic site rules, like we have the do's and don'ts. We should have agreed code of practice for drivers. Vehicles should be properly maintained meticulously, not just for paper, for recording purpose to say, okay, I've got this done. They should be really done. The reversing of vehicles, there should be clear access. Banksmen must man every equipment that's reversing. Then visible clothing for pedestrians and everyone walking around the environment, so that once the driver is approaching, can easily spot the person and be able to maintain safe speed and maintain safe culture while driving. Then pedestrians to keep to walkways. That's why you've got the walkways. Either you do them in physical barriers or you have markings on the floor where the drivers know their boundaries and pedestrians know their boundary. Fire hazard has become another big problem with regards to vehicles, because most, let's say, warehouses and manufacturing organizations, most of their equipment, they use batteries. And since the inception of use of batteries, it has become a big issue that batteries, when the equipment are parked in an area where they are not properly ventilated or where there are heat or batteries are not properly maintained, they build up a kind of, they give out fumes, which causes explosion, especially with forklift today. Modern forklift, most of the hazard we have is fire hazard because of explosion from the batteries, which propels and power the equipment. Then the last one is driver training and agreed code of practice, which we keep talking about all the time. So it's very, very important. If we agree that there's a specific driving certification for you to operate a forklift, they must make sure, we must make sure that the people get them before they are allowed to operate. So while driving at work, let's have a quick look at the scope and what the law says. So who is a driver? People whose main job is driving within the organization. So those who drive occasionally or for short distance as part of their work. And the term drivers and driving include riders and riding, bike and bicycles, motorcycles and bicycles, and vehicles. All of them are vehicles, cars, trucks, whatever. So far, you driving, you are all exposed, and every one of us must ensure that whoever is driving within the organization should be covered under these requirements, which we've been talking about. Some companies, you can remember when Gokada clogged Lagos, this delivery stuff that came to Lagos. Yeah, it was a very big major employment of labor, but at the same time, it resulted to a lot of traffic accidents within Lagos. And somehow it's no longer existing, but yes, they come with their own unique and specific hazard. So what does the law say? Every nation have what we call the National Health and Safety Law, generally applied to drivers at work. Yes, and I know we have it in Nigeria. Enforcing it is the only problem, but we should also include those requirements to make sure that we are doing better than we are right now. Complying with road traffic laws, we have insufficient to meet health and safety requirements and duty to employees and others. So both the employer and the employee, they've got a duty to ensure their health and safety, and the employer must ensure to provide a safe workplace for the employees if things must be done properly. Then driving at work, what are the benefits of managing road safety risk? It helps the organization to control costs, of course. You have less, it has both direct and indirect impact. So it helps to control costs if there is a proper management of workplace transportation. Improved decision regarding driver training and vehicle purchase. So once you have a good safety management system for managing workplace transportation, you will find out that the organization will be able to make more objective decisions with what do we need to purchase? Do we need to purchase the forklift that are always exploding because of the batteries? Is our temperature hot? Yeah. Do we think that we'll be able to ventilate where we are keeping this forklift to prevent the batteries from exploding? If no, okay, let's not go for the battery-powered forklift. Let's go for this or that or that. So we have alternative, yeah? Then reduction in lost time, of course, then less downtime. So once everything is working, there will be reduced downtime and there will be less lost time because people will be safe. There will be no need for accidents and things will go on smoothly. Now, even driving at work, while managing occupational road risk, there are basic things we need to look at when we are trying to formulate the risk assessment. So we have what we call the distance to be considered, the driving hours to be considered, the work schedule, the stress, traffic, and weather. I've broken this into pieces in the forthcoming slide, so it will be easy to understand when we get there. Then driving at work, when we want to evaluate the risk, we should consider the driver. The driver must be competent, he must have the right training and fit in terms of his health or her health. We should consider the vehicle, if they are safe vehicles, if they are suitable, what are the conditions, the safety equipment like the seat belt, fire extinguishers, the ABS, which is the automatic braking system, etc. How far is the journey? Is it traveling from Lagos to Kaduna, or is he traveling from Lagos to Ibadan? The risks are different, yeah? So these are things we should consider. Even though he's traveling from Lagos to Kaduna, he may be safer if the routes are smooth, if the roads are safe and everything is fine, than traveling a short distance where you've got a million potholes before he reaches his destination. So in the risk assessment, while considering the aspect of the driver during the risk assessment, the driver must be a competent person. The driver must have a stable health condition, and they must have what we call eye test to make sure they are suitable to drive, and they should have the required training to operate such type of equipment or not. Second thing to consider is the selection process of this driver. Is the driver reliable? Then have a look at the purple box and the green box. How can a driver be reliable? If he's reliable, it means that he's competent and he's medically fit, right? So he's certified by competency, he has the right skills under competency, he has experience, and he has the right knowledge as a driver. What else can you make your driver reliable? Okay, my driver is let's say is asthmatic, for example, and he cannot work in an area where there is possibility of dust or excessive heat or smoke. But you cannot tell if the driver is traveling from your workplace to point number B, if there's going to be a fire burning or a bush burning and he's going to expose to smoke, you don't know. So these are the things we need to check. Reliability have to do with his competency and his medical condition. What about maturity? When we're talking about maturity, it means that the driver has reached a level of understanding whereby you know he can trust himself and you can trust him and he can take care of himself and that of his own safety, right? He's able to plan. He's able to overcome distractions. He's not going to put the music on highest and get distracted. He knows himself. He knows that if he's fatigued, he's going to stop after driving for 2 hours. He needs to rest for 20, 30 minutes. He knows these things. Yeah? A driver is mature if he knows left from right, do's and don'ts. And we have others, like the route, the distance, the weather, and the time planning. And that authorized person, you can only be an authorized person if you have the right competency and you have the right certification, you have the right skills to operate, and you got a certification or a license to operate. And you have been given the authority to do that from the organization side. So when you consider the risk assessment from the vehicle must be suitable, must be roadworthy, ergonomic condition. That is the big point we're looking at. Is a silent killer. That's why you look at most people who've worked within an organization for about 35 to 40 years in the capacity of equipment operation. Look at them when they get to 60 years or 65. You find them working and they are bent. They don't work straight anymore because most of those equipment they sit on to operate. The crane, the forklift, the payloader, the whatever excavator machine, etc. Even the seat they are sitting on, they don't have the required ergonomic fittings anymore. They are totally worn out. The organization management know nothing about these areas. They just say, oh, is the equipment starting? Does it work? Yes, okay, go. Yalla, go and excavate. That's the problem. Whereas these people sit on that vibrating equipment for 20 to 30 to 35 years, and after fulfilling their work for the organization, they go back home sick, having serious ergonomic related ill conditions. So this is one big area we need to focus on. And I think we should be focusing more on looking at these silent killers within the organization. Then properly loaded. For the vehicles, equipment and load should be properly loaded. I gave you an example of using the Helios pickup to transport people sitting in the bucket instead of sitting on the back seat. That's another issue. And we do that till tomorrow in Nigeria. And the road safety in Nigeria, who knows this? They don't even see it as a wrong stuff. It is correct in their eyes, which is wrong. Then the risk assessment with regards to the journey, yeah, we should consider the route, the safest route to follow. It must not be the shortest, but the safest, yeah? So consideration should be given to that. Scheduling, tight schedule, if you let's say, for example, those of us who work in a logistics organization where we need to meet up targets to deliver items, when you make a very tight schedule, the drivers tend to drive too fast, and that results to accident. So enough time should be given. The distance should also be calculated. The weather condition, is it raining? Is it sunny? Is it foggy? This should be considered, and pressure. When you mount too much pressure on the operators, they tend to make mistakes, and boom, there you have accident. And looking at this, driving at work, what does the ILO think for road transport drivers? What does the ILO think? ILO feel that every operator, every organization should have a quick look at the normal hours of work, not to exceed 8 hours in every 24 hours. Is that applicable in our workplace? We should take note of that to discuss it in the question and answer section. Then, second thing is the length and the frequency of breaks. Now, and what I know, as per the recommendation, even though it varies between an organization to an organization, some companies will tell you if you drive for every 2 hours, you should stop and rest for 20 minutes minimum. Some organizations for every 1.5 hours, while some organizations for every 1 hour of sitting on the wheels, you should pull over and rest for 20 minutes. But in some very major organizations, even international organizations I know, the drivers, they drive for 5 hours stretch, 6 hours stretch without even pulling over. So that is one of the areas the ILO is saying that you should draft and document your procedures to make sure it gives accommodation for the frequency of break per every specific hours of driving. And that must be done in line with the decisions of the drivers, the ILO recommendations, approved code of practices from the region where you operate from. So that's why it differs. It differs from Europe, from the UK, from Africa, from Asia, from the Middle East, it differs, yeah? So what works for you doesn't work for those people who work in Dubai. Those who work in Dubai and Qatar, the temperature can get up to 51 degrees hot. And some of those equipment don't even have air condition sometimes. So the driver easily gets fatigued within 30 minutes. So in Doha, every 1 hour you drive, you pull over for 20 minutes and you rest. And the equipment must have fitted air condition system. So it depends. So it depends on what applies to your region. Then the total driving time must not exceed that 8 hours in every 24 hours. And daily rest time is very important. So what we do is we make sure in every week a driver must have 2 good days to rest outside the 8 hours of working. That's why we don't allow them to work twice in a week so that they can recover and be fresh for the new week. Yeah. Then we have minimum weekly rest, which means you should not work maximum maybe 40 hours per week, max for a week. Then we have accumulated rest. So this can happen, and sometimes work pressure may demand that we have more working hours. And if a driver works and exceed 40 hours for a week, then we should give an extra day for him to work less hours for the next week. Yeah, so that's what the ILO have given a framework of recommendation. However, this recommendation must be ratified within the country where you operate from, the region or the zone you operate from. Rectify them to match with the norms and the ways of doing things there, but must not go against and outside this basic requirement of 8 hours in 24 hours. Yeah. So yeah, those are the basics from ILO, and the next is we are going to the Q&A section. Thank you very much, and I hope that it was very clear, and if there are anything, we are still here to talk through it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Uboderoye Tokman. He did justice to this presentation start. For those of us that came late, I'll just do a rough summary of what he taught us so far. For those of us who have done IDC, you can relate with this well, and for those who work in logistics company and construction companies. All right, so it looked at the various workplace transport equipment that you have in the workplace and their risks. He also mentioned what could go wrong with workplace transport. One of the salient things that is of concern is that there is collision with pedestrians. Looking at that interface area, especially where the workplace is not properly designed. And he went to look at control system. Then he went further to look at statistics. He looked at the global statistics. What drew my attention, he talked about Africa, where you have high figures, looking at workplace accident involving equipment and humans. And then he talked about Nigeria having 20.5% at 2013 upward, and that's cause for concern. We know a lot of work hazards and incidents that occur. Some are not reported, and probably some that are reported, our agencies that are concerned, they don't have a synergy. So statistically, we are not there. If we don't have statistics, we don't have this figure, then we cannot identify trend, we cannot allocate resources to effectively, put a check on that. He looked at the cause of accident, looked at driving too fast, looked at sharp bend, silent operation, looking at those battery-powered equipment, poor visibility, reversing, overturning, moving, then look at loading, unloading, and look at the narrow road, poor road work, no markings, lack of training and all of that. Then he looked at the hazard of mobile work equipment and controls. All right, look at, like in our workplaces where we have, you see boldly written on the equipment, no riding, but you see people riding on it and they don't see anything wrong with it. You tell them, they say, no, this is how we've been doing it and all of that. And what could go wrong? He also mentioned for the controls, looking at the roll-ups, all right, rollover protection and falling object protection, which should be robust, tested, and ensure that it's fit for purpose as per serving what it's intended for. That most times don't go checked in our work environment. Then he also looked at poor maintenance, looking at hazard of mobile work equipment, looked at visibility, rough or on uneven ground that could lead to accident, overturning, and then emergencies, access and egress. If you don't properly plan your workplace, then incident will occur. He talked about simple control, looking at the safe side, safe vehicle, and safe driver. For safe side, he mentioned the traffic route, environmental conditions, one-way traffic system, consideration of public safety, looked at external roadways, then the induction training, safe system of work for specific activities, safe for the safe vehicle. It looked at the vehicle must be suitable, must be inspected, must be maintained, must be visible. That means if it's fading, you have to ensure you put the colors back on so that anybody can easily spot it. The lighting are on each time it's operating. Then look at the safe driver. All right. Of course, the driver must be competent. He must have the skills, the knowledge, the ability, the experience to operate. And then they looked at he also stressed on the rollover of work equipment and self-propelled work equipment. And this is something that we must take home and try to introduce it also in our workplaces for those who work in a place where they operate their system or their equipment. Probably they don't have such, because you are putting the operator's life in the line of fire. Look at ILO recommendation for transport of earth moving material equipment and material requirements. Looking at markings, brakes, lights, alarm, operation requirement, procedure, and rules. Then you look at the safe driving, look at selection and training of driver, very, very important. Management system to ensure driver competence. All right. And then local code of practice in accordance with the law. Then scope of driving, managing of occupational road risks. He looked at evaluating the risks. The driver, he must be competent. The vehicle must be suitable. And then the route, look at managing within the control. Looking at the route, that will be risk assessed. Look at the distance, the schedule, time. Take for instance, around some 20 areas in this part of the world, you don't move on Mondays. Why? Because there are some restrictions. If your driver, we've heard of cases where driver drove past those areas, the vehicles were burned down, drivers, or risked lynching, some even maimed, and they died. So you must do your proper journey management. Then you finally look at ILO recommendation, all right, which must be enforced because for the future is now, and what you do now will determine how your future will look like. So he looked at people who work as if they are bent because probably the vehicles they are using not risk assessed, and they are exposed to vibration, and over time it becomes something that is a health risk. Instead of you to retire to go home to your family and enjoy your earnings for as retirement, then you start using them to trade. We talked about normal hours, which should not exceed 8 hours, length and frequency of of breaks, total driving time, daily rest time, looked at the minimum weekly rest, and then accumulated rest. And all these, if they are not looked into, then that workplace, knowingly or unknowingly, is exposing its staff. And when your staff are exposed to work, that will also lead to loss of revenue, because when they are going home for as a result of sickness and all of that, you're losing man-hour, you're losing money, because when you manage health and safety, you have value for your investment, and you have good return on investment. So thank you so much once again, Mr. Budare Opan, and I'll have Mr. Solomon to anchor in the next session, which is the Q&A section. Mr. Solomon, please, over to you. Solomon on this call.
Okay, I'm not sure Solomon is on this call. I'm not sure Solomon is on this call. So you can just take the Q&A session.
Okay. So let's see. If you have any question, you can type on the chat box, or just simply identify by show of hand, and then you unmute. We'll call you up to ask your question.
I think Mr. Azubike is raising his hand.
Yeah. Is that a thumbs up? Or okay, Mr. Azubike, if you want to ask a question, just unmute and then go ahead with your question.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Okay, my question is the presenter. Thank you very much for this very impressive presentation on the workplace transportation. My question is, it talks about maturity of the driver, being matured, which is, he told us that you have to be mature enough for you to, take in charge of your safety of your along the road. My question is, if you are a driver, you are driving along the road, and there is a situation which you cannot manage, you are not able to manage it, because he talked about maturity. What are you going to do? Then question number 2 is where the percentage of accidents, workplace accidents as a result of vehicle collision in our workplace is very high, and we don't have a means of trying to, enforcement is really a problem. How are we going to drive all this? Is because we know that when it comes to Africa, it's as if we don't pay attention to all these things. When we do some of all these are copy from the Europe and want to paste it here, it's as if it's very difficult for us to drive it here, because most of the management system, they are not actually encouraging the enforcement. They are only paying attention on the profit side of it, and not on the how we are going to reduce the accident in our workplace as a result of vehicle collision or vehicle issues. So what are we going to do to make sure that these things are being trickled down to what we are doing in Africa, especially in Nigeria? Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, yeah. The first question was with regards to maturity, right? So as an organization, you can only do what you can do when it comes to maturity. So an organization that is serious to drive health and safety, the maturity requirements can be fulfilled by ensuring that the driver has been equipped on how they can comport, how they can manage themselves. So you said if the driver has faced a situation which he or she cannot handle, that is why when it comes to workplace transportation, that's why if you can take note, I spoke about preparing for emergencies. Yeah. So every organization has got specific type of emergencies that are applicable for each operations within the organization. So we've got emergencies that are related to transportation, and those can range from accidents, those can range from attacks. Those can range from whatever. You know what is going on in Nigeria. So let's pin it to Nigeria. A driver that is that is traveling from Lagos to Kaduna, the first thing that comes to his mind is the safety, the risk from being attacked by external forces on the way. That is the first thing that comes to his or her mind. So what does the organization need to do? Now, we have systems in place whereby we can travel only when we are sure that the road is safe. We know very well that transporters that are transporting people from the eastern part of Nigeria to the northern part of Nigeria, they now go with escorts. We know that some people even invest as much as having an escort ahead before the main vehicle. In case there is anything, they can deter it before the vehicle gets there. So we have so many options. A driver that is mature, who knows that he is sound medically to attain and to carry out the job, a driver who knows that, okay, I don't feel comfortable to drive today because I'm having migraine and I'm not in the right position, to speak out, and the organization can then have alternatives on how to do this. But what you said with regards to not being able to control the situation, I know you are looking at the aspect of security. Yeah. So the aspect of security, it's an organizational issue which a company can manage. So we cannot really tell. And most things we do in Nigeria is just try by error now. Then let me go back to the other side of the management within most organizations in Nigeria not ready to drive health and safety to make sure that whatever procedures we have written down are being properly implemented. That is why you and I, that's why we are sitting here. That's why we're having these meetings. That is why we are trying to develop ourselves on a daily basis. Even though you want to make a cost-benefit analysis and give to your management that if we do this, we stand to gain this, most companies don't care. There's nothing you can do. However, continuous reminder of the implication of not investing into health and safety will someday sink a message into their head. Now, we must not wait for accidents to happen for our management staff to learn their lessons. If we continually persist to drive health and safety into every aspect of our operations, which I know is very difficult to do from the health and safety department. However, the management staff trying to drag them to key into the idea is the only way to make it work. So we have a huge, huge work to do in Africa. We need to take Africa to a level whereby CEOs, managing directors, senior management staff to be able to marry health and safety with operations. Not until health and safety is married together with operations, we can never get there. And how can we do that? We only gonna keep preaching, keep putting best practices in place. We as health and safety practitioners leading by example so they can see, telling them the benefits and what we stand to gain if we implement. And one day, I believe, with the way health and safety is going now in Nigeria, I trust that over time, it will start sinking into the ears of business owners and things may change very soon, hopefully. I'm very sorry, and I know it's a hopeless situation at the moment, but I still know very well that some organizations are doing excellently well within the context of Nigeria. I trust and I know that. On the other hand, we just cannot stop. That is why we are here as a family to help each other, to stand for each other, to advise each other on those ways which we can improve. So just for example, you've had difficulties in trying to implement this in some cases. We can share ideas. We can have further meetings whereby we can discuss on proper strategies on how you can overcome these challenges in your workplace. So if anyone else have any contribution, you know, we operate from different spheres and our experiences are different. Please, you can easily contribute on how you have been able to manage such situations in your organization, so he can also learn from there.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think, Wamaka, you have a question. She asks, please, what is the maximum driving time for truck drivers in Nigeria? Secondly, under which competency area will we record this webinar in Blueprint? I recently reviewed the journey management procedure for my organization. Under which area will it be recorded on Blueprint? So 2 questions in one. Yes, Mr. Budaro.
So, yeah, the first question was with regards to working
What's the maximum
amount of hours a driver should drive.
In Nigeria?
So, okay, Nigeria is a member of the ILO. And if you look at, let's have a look at this slide. Nigeria is a member of the ILO, and the ILO conventions, whatever is being agreed, means that each member state will go back to ratify it.
True.
So ratification of the first line, normal hours of work not to exceed 8 hours in every 24 hours. That is the standard. However, sometimes we can have accumulated rest because the work process demands the driver to work 2, 3, 4 extra hours, which we know that somehow it is reasonable sometimes. If you have not overstretched the operator, yeah, it is reasonable sometimes to seek for their permission for some overtime. However, whatever hours they have, so if I drive today Saturday for 10 hours, I'm supposed to resume work tomorrow by 8. So I'm taking 2 hours before, so I'm going to resume work by 10 tomorrow. So I can have these 2 hours extra, which I did today. So this is a standard. Nigeria is a member of the ILO, and the ILO is very clear with regards to ratification. Whatever is decided in any of the conventions must be ratified by each member state. So this is what it is, 8 hours per every 24 hours. Whereby the driver is exceeding 8 hours, an extra time should be given on the subsequent day to cover for that rest. But whatever much hours you are giving as overtime should be reasonable. Reasonable means it's a maximum of 4 hours. So you cannot work more than 12-hour shifts in a day and not on a stretch continuously, no. So if I work 8 hours, if I work 10 hours or 9 or 11 or 12 hours, the next day I should take off that rest. This is what I do in my organization. My workplace transport management plan included this. All my drivers, they know. So if the driver is working and he calls me like, okay, Okpan, my duty is finished, but I just got a call to drive to this place to deliver this critical sensitive equipment for that ship. I know that that ship needs that equipment to operate because they pay us more than $12,000 per day. So will I say, okay, your 8 hours is complete, don't go? I won't say that. Go and make sure any extra hour you work, rest it over the next morning before you resume to work. So this is how, currently, this is what I do in my workplace. And it's working for the drivers, and they are very, very happy. But sometimes you may get management staff that will never buy into this idea, and they will tell you, you are wasting time and you are reducing production time. That's why you have to let them know what the law says and how you can be safer and happy with following the requirements, and how the drivers can be more productive if they follow the basic requirements. Okay, so your second question is with regards to logging this CPD on your IOSH blueprint, right? So that is basically, I don't know how you register your CPD at the moment, but you will select criteria under webinar. I think that should go well for you, yeah?
She said she recently reviewed a journey management procedure for her because she works in, and under which area will she now record that procedure she reviewed? on Blueprint.
I wish I can open Blueprint to see the options now. Okay, I think I'll come back to our question shortly. Let me just see what Blueprint has for us and what she can do to that.
Okay, Cynthia, Uzoma Ugbolu is asking, do you still pay overtime for it with extra hour of rest?
So that is the tricky part. So that's the tricky part. Okay, your normal work hours is, if your normal work hours is 8 hours a day and you work 10 hours, you work 10 hours today, so you have had extra 2 hours, right? If I decide to pay you overtime for that 2 hours, you will want to do another 2 hours extra tomorrow and next and next. It means by default, you'll be working 10 hours every day, which we don't encourage that. So if you work extra 2 hours, you're going to rest off that 2 hours the next morning. You take an off for that 2 hours and your salary remains the same. Only where there is special need, where there are contingencies, and we find out that you really need to work extra 2 hours and still resume by 8 a.m. the next day. We'll seek your consent, we'll give you a form, you sign it, and in that form, it is very clearly written that you are sure that you are fit to drive and that the extra hours you had the next day, you were able to rest on time when you go home and you are fit to drive. So when you consent to that, we can pay the overtime. But that is why the health and safety department is to counter-check the decision of the drivers. Every driver will say, yes, I'm fit to drive, I'm fit to drive. But the moment I walk in, I say, man, you've had 2 overtimes and 6 hours extra in this week. You don't need any more. I'll give that to another driver. I'll tell another driver to pick on that row and you just go and rest. Because if you don't put a stop to it, every of them will take 4 hours overtime every day. They'll be working 12 hours every day. If you don't control it, they will think they are making more money. However, they are exposing themselves to future risk, which they may not be able to manage when the time comes.
Thank you. Any other question? If there are no other question, we'll need to go to the next agenda. Thank you so much once again, Mr.
Yes.
Hello.
Chris, I mean, we have 2 people that are still raising up their hands. One, Bashiru Man and Azul Wiki.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Azul Wiki, go ahead.
Okay, my question is, if you find yourself in a situation where the vehicle you want to carry a load, the vehicle is designed to carry a load of 50 kg, and your management, you have done your assessment, you have carried out your safety check, and you have a checklist. This vehicle is designed to carry a load of 50 kg, and the management, the top manager, want the vehicle to carry a load of 55 kg. And you told him or her that this vehicle cannot carry this load. This is how it is designed. And you went ahead, the manager now decided that this vehicle should go with 55 kg of a load. What are you going to do at that point? Another point I want to ask again, another question I want to ask again is, what is expected time for a driver to be on the wheel and when driving? What is the expected time that you are going to be in contact? You'll be driving along the road by International Labour Organization. I know, like what the presenter said, that some depend on the organization, can be 1 hour, it can be 2 hours, but we know that sometimes that because of this thing is a major problem a major cause of accident on our road. Because most of these it's only those international organizations, international companies that do maintain most of all these things we have said here. Individuals in Nigeria that owns most of all these companies, they don't abide by most of these things we have discussed here. So what is the expected time so that we can go back and advise our management that our driver cannot be on the way for 4 hours, these hours, and these are the consequences for them to be on the way. Thank you.
Okay. Your first question is with regards to the management not heeding to advice with regards to the load to be loaded in an equipment. I think this is an internal and it's a systemic problem. Most times, I won't tell you I haven't faced such a situation. Most of us have faced it. I've faced it several times, maybe not with regards to equipment, but you find that management not caring about what to be done. But the good thing is that as a health and safety professional, I think we are the most milk, the most gentle, and the most diplomatic employees within any organization. All the bullets come to us, but at the same time, we try as much as possible to still maintain relationship and keep things going. The first thing I will advise is to settle the internal systemic error which the management is having. They have failed to marry safety to operations, which I talked about earlier. They have failed to do that. However, it is very easy to still keep letting them know that this is what is right and this is what is wrong. If the organization is issuing any form of permit for such operations to happen, of course, from the point of safety point of view, such permits will not be issued, and that loading and transportation will just be done out of their own consent. But most times, they will pressure you to give that permit, or sometimes you may even lose your job. You understand? That is why I talked about a responsible driver. If a driver says, boss, this is not safe, this equipment is going to sink on the way, the load is too much, I'm the one operating this equipment, the load is too much, I cannot operate this, I will fall on the way and we are going to lose these millions of naira. They will fall off. Just like, you know now, guys, a million times you will see a food truck of Guinness or Nigerian breweries with their product falling off on the road, and everything is gone to zero. So when you have safe drivers, when you have drivers that are competent, drivers who knows the do's and the don'ts, by the time the health and safety perspective and the operator perspective is against the opinion of the owner or the MD or the director, he will go back to his office and he will start thinking like, okay, I can actually lose this. And consistent doing it, something may shift in the future. It's unfortunate. That's what I'm saying. IOSH West Africa is really going to be a big help to health and safety in Africa. So it's unfortunate, and it's good that we are discussing these odds here, right? It's very good we are discussing them. We are still going to face this problem over time for some years, but trust me, they will change. Now, focus on having safe drivers. Have a safe team. Once you have safe team, once you have safe people, you will have a safe workplace someday. So just imagine driver A telling the boss, I cannot do this, the load is too much. Driver B is doing the same, C is doing the same. The guy will definitely adjust because you have trained your drivers. Your drivers knows their left from right. You are working in line with the HRO department, the logistics department to make sure they only employ the right people who meet those 3 criteria which we talked about earlier. So somehow, someday, at the end of the tunnel, definitely you will have safe people, safe operators who adhere to health and safety requirements. There will be a shift in the decisions of the manager someday. Okay. So with second question with regards to the number of hours here, there are a lot of opinions. Some organizations will tell you you can drive up to 4 to 5 hours, especially in the Americas. Yeah. Why is it so in the America? That's why I told you it depends on where you're operating for. Why is it so in the America? Because one of the major business in the United States and its environment is trucking. And time is very important when it comes to trucking and logistics business. What has the American government done to improve trucking? Because they get a lot of tax from these truckers. They have built very wide roads. If you visit the United States, the motorways between one city to another, they are very wide. You can have up to 8, 9, 10 lanes. And there are specific lanes that accommodate the trucks. And in the United States, the trucks are better than the G-Wagon you drive in Nigeria. If you are in a truck, the power steering is softer than a G-Wagon, is softer than your Land Cruiser or whatever. They are built for safety. So in the US, they can drive 4 hours, 4.5 hours, and 5 hours. And in between, you will see them taking a rest of 1 hour. They sleep, rest for 1 hour, 30 minutes. In the United Kingdom and in Europe, our roads are like this. The lines between your car and the line on the road is the same. If a truck is driving in the United Kingdom, you have to give way for the truck to pass. So there are more restrictions here. For every 2 hours, you must brake, pull over for 20 minutes minimum to rest. For every 2 hours driving. In the Middle East, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and UAE, let's say Qatar, for example, because I worked around that region for about 10 years. When the humidity is very high, when the temperature gets up to 51 degrees and the humidity is around 80, with your air condition as a driver, you will even be suffocating. So we made it compulsory. When you drive for 1 hour, 30 minutes, pull over and rest for 20 minutes. That's because of the situation. But what does ILO think? ILO is very smart. So they did not make it specific to say this is a must. They say go to your country, make a risk assessment of what is applicable in your country, what is the temperature, how does your road look like in your country, what is the security situation in your country. Make that risk assessment and decide. But make sure for a window of every 2 hours, there should be like a 20 minutes rest in between. You get. So this is how it looks like. There is no pain to it, but based on your risk assessment, rectify the ILO requirement. So let's say for Nigeria, I don't know how that risk assessment will look like for a Nigerian terrain where you are faced with bad roads, you are faced with equipment that are not maintained, you are faced with drivers who never had certification for that equipment, you are faced with criminals on the road who may attack you while you are driving. Where do you want to pull over in Lokoja to Abuja Expressway? Where do you want to pull over between Lagos to Warri? If you pull over, they will rob you. So that we have a situation, big situations, guys, is a big situation. So yeah, based on your risk assessment. So you who is the manager or the coordinator or the health and safety engineer within your organization, the truth is that make a risk assessment of the routes, decide with the drivers. But of a good practice, make sure that within every 2 hours window, let that young man pull over for 20 minutes and rest. Does that answer your question, please?
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Any other question before we go over to certificate presentation? All right. Mr. Ovodero, thank you so much for this apt presentation. And in our user custom, on behalf of the IOSH West Africa South, we present the certificate of appreciation to you, which will be emailed to your mailbox after this session. The certificate of appreciation has been awarded to Opan Voderoye from the Institute of Occupational Safety and Health for facilitation of our South-South 11th November 2023 network meeting on workplace transport hazard and risk control.
Thank you very much.
So much on behalf of our ESCO. We say please accept this from us. And when next we call again, I hope your doors be widely open for other session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Next on our agenda, we'll be going over straight to AOB. And I call on Buki to handle this session. Buki, please, are you on the call?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're now at AOB. So if we have any issues or any questions or anything concerning IOSH I would want to ask, or things we need clarifications on, since the floor is open. Thank you.
Okay, somebody asked a question earlier with regards to reviewing their internal transport system, right? I was just looking through the IOSH blueprint now, and under the categories, I think the closest and something that may suit what she's done is the industry article / publication. I think that is what is closest to under the category selection. So you can take note of that. Industry article / publication. So because you are reviewing your internal policies and whatever, so that is the closest category you can select from the IOSH blueprint.
Wamaka, take note. Thank you so much, sir.
Right.
Go ahead. Okay, over to you.
Yeah, I'm here, but I'm waiting. I don't think maybe people have anything to say in AOB. I can't see any hand up. Okay, maybe we'll just go over to the next item on the agenda.
Okay, next on the agenda, we want to have, thank you, Buki. Appreciate. Next on the agenda, we want to have update from the central. I call on our chair, Mr. Temitope Mudele, to please take the floor.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Pastor Chris, for the nice coordination. Please, kindly confirm if you can hear me, please. Am I audible?
Loud and clear, there, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So once again, a great thanks to our presenter for this, and for this insightful presentation. I think workplace transportation is another that exists at all workplaces. There is no workplace that does not face this hazard, and and definitely you actually show a lot of insight into it. You made us to understand why we must definitely have risk control in place. And definitely what even matters most is, it's making us to understand the 5 principles, that is being a safe driver, having a safe vehicle, having a safe journey, handling the emergencies. These are the basic things that actually exist at the workplace. So thank you for this, for this insightful presentation. Thank you so much, and we sincerely appreciate. In addition, I will also be appreciating some of members that are on this call. I can see Akim. Akim is on this call. Thank you for always being a part of this branch. Akim, Mustafa, Zanre, thanks. We sincerely appreciate you. And earlier on, I see the chairman of ISPON, Lagos State, Mr. Shola Ogunleye. I'm not sure he's still on the call, but notwithstanding, we also appreciate your presence. So for us to know, the IOSH West African branch comprises of 4 districts. So one of the districts is hosting the meeting today, and the district is the South. We also have the Southwest, we have the North Central, and we have the Ghana district. So these are the 4 districts that actually make up the IOSH West African branch. So next week we will be having the Southwest will be hosting us on this type of CPD session. The Southwest will be hosting us. So please, the flyer for that meeting will be released during the week. So kindly let us register to attend the CPD session. Also, the new membership categories is to be released by IOSH before the end of the month. So let us await. We already know the categories, but definitely we need an official communication. There will be an official communication that will take effect before the end of the month in respect of this new membership category. So definitely let us wait for this official communication. And definitely, if you have any issue, if you have any comment on it, please do not hesitate to contact any member. Do not hesitate to contact any executive committee. Please let us take note of this. And definitely, the IOSH AGM will be coming up on the 15th of November 2023. That is next week, Wednesday. The IOSH AGM is very, very important for members to attend. This has been sent to our email. The email that you registered with IOSH, this has been sent to it. So, it's going to be a virtual AGM. Several decisions will be taken at that AGM, including the confirmation of the IOSH vice president, who happens to be one of our chair, especially the chair of IOSH Ghana. So please, let's kindly attend this AGM. IOSH AGM is for 15th November 2023. Please let us attend this. And also earlier on the chair South mentioned the physical meetings. Yes, we will provide an update on this when we have a feedback from IOSH. We're supposed to have fiscal meetings in December, but this might not be visible now. But definitely we will provide an update to us for us to have an update in respect of that. And also for us to know, we also have 3 subcommittees that support members. This is very, very important. We have 3 subcommittees that support members. We have the CPD and competency committee. Please, as a member, if you're having any issue with your CPD, with your blueprint, you can contact the CPD and competency committee. This committee will provide the necessary assistance required for you to complete your CPD. And please let us take note of this. A deadline, I can't remember the deadline now. A deadline has been given by IOSH that if you don't complete your blueprint, it is very, very important. This is a very important information. If you don't complete your blueprint or not before certain date, which we are going to confirm and send it to the group, or not before certain date, such member will be taken back to the affiliate. So please, this is very, very important information. As a member of IOSH, even if you are a chartered fellow, and if you have not updated your blueprint, you will be taken back to affiliate. Please, IOSH is very, very serious on this. Let us ensure that we complete our CPD. Let us make our CPD up to date. What do we have to do? We only have to conform with 30 hours. You must have a minimum of 30 hours CPD annually, which depends on the time that you pay your annual due. Please let us take note of this. So if you're having any issue with your CPD, the CPD and competency committee is always ready to provide the necessary assistance. So please let us take advantage of this. Also, we have the career mentoring committee. The career mentoring committee is to guide us. There are so many of us, we see several certifications online. We'll be asking, please, what is the next? I've done this. What is my next line of action? Which certification do I need? So we have a committee that could actually provide advisory role. They actually provide an advisory role for you if you are having an issue with the next career development. So please let us also take advantage of this career mentoring committee. And lastly, we have the membership upgrade. Membership upgrade committee. If any of our members are having issue with upgrading their membership, we have this committee to also provide guidance. Please, for as many members that needs to upgrade, this is the committee that has the right information that you can also, you can always meet to provide you with guidance in order to upgrade your committees. So please let us also take note of this. Please, at the end of this meeting, as you are signing out, there will be a feedback session. You must first of all log out before you see that feedback. There will be a feedback form whereby you will have to complete the feedback. Let us also do that because we need your feedback in order to improve. This is very, very important. Let us take note of this. So I will call on the vice chair, IOSH West African branch, in the person of Oluwakemi Arumosoye, to also give a kind of feedback also. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Chair, for that. And once again, thanks, Mr. Okpan, for that wonderful presentation. Okay, I'll just follow the line from where Chair stopped and continue. Okay, so the Career and Mentoring Committee, their next meeting is going to be 25th of November, 2023. So it's in 2 weeks' time. So once we share that information on all our platform, please, we encourage everyone to please join. And I think the section they're going to be having is sustainability management. So for those that will be interested, please try and join. Also, IOSH is still giving the West Africa, the IOSH West Africa branch, they're still giving us discounts. So if you are not yet a member of IOSH, kindly join. JJ already posted, he already posted something on the WhatsApp, on the Zoom. But in case you are interested, you can also go on the IOSH platform. You see the membership form, because we can't share the form here now. You see the membership form, just download the form. You see a concessionary form, also download the form. Of course, if your salary is within £18,000 annually, you will be given the concessionary. So there are different concessionary that IOSH give. They give the low income. They give the low income, depending on the evidences that you will show. That will determine how much you are going to pay. And also, so the low income is under the unemployment or redundancy. No, the low income is under the low wages and semi-retired career break. So they also have the employment and redundancy. So once you fill the form, you have the evidences for the unemployment and redundancy. You are going to show evidence of a letter on a letter-headed paper showing that the company, maybe due to a lot of people, they had to lay you off or something. So if you have those evidences, you just show. And again, if you have job seekers allowances and bank statements, so you are supposed to show a bank statement for the last 3 months to see whether you have been receiving an income. So that should determine if they're going to give you that that's either unemployment or redundancy. So for the low wages and semi-retired career break, you just need to show a letter on a letter headed from your company stating the annual wage or wage slip for the last 3 months. So if you have that, apply for that too. So he held for a 12 months minimum period to, if you have evidence to show that a sickness or absence letter from a consultant or GP or your employer. Yeah. Then also maternity, paternity, and adoptive leave. The evidence to show is if you have a MAT B1 form. That MAT B1 form, I think, is a form in the UK, but for Nigeria, so if you have like a maternity leave from your organization, and of course a doctor's report that you'll be due to give birth at XYZ. So just also send that. So for retired, that means you're not working. You just need to show a copy of your pension letter. So once you have that, you can just apply for the concessionary. So I actually do not know how much they're going to give, but your evidences will determine how much IOSH will give you. And for and of course, if you don't meet these requirements, you can also send an email to csc@iosh.com telling them that csc@iosh.com. So telling them that that you want your membership to be moved to IOSH West Africa. You want to renew your membership. So that's the only way you can get the 50% discounts. So you can apply for that 50% discount and also use concessionary. You have to choose one. So, and again, for those that want to also renew their membership, and because of the you can't pay with your card, your Naira card, or your if you're from Ghana or any of the West Africa countries, and all, you can always if you have anyone that is living in the UK, or you can also contact Mr. Dapo. For those in Nigeria, you can also contact Mr. Dapo. Or even Mr. Akim Mustafa, who is on this call too. You can just contact them, but just take note that it's going to be the exchange rate on the day they are going to pay that money. It's not bank rate. Always remember that it's not bank rate, but the exchange rate from the rate as at the black market rate as at that day. So yeah, so at the moment, I think that's all the information I have now. So thank you so much, and over to you, Chair.
Thank you, Kemi, for the update. I appreciate. I'll call on Chair again for his closing remarks. Please, after the closing remarks, don't log off. Turn off your camera. Turn on your camera so we can have the group picture session for records. Thank you. Chair, over to you, sir.
Okay, and please, which chair is it? The south or the branch? Be specific. Just on the lighter. Yes. Thank you. So on behalf of the branch and definitely on behalf of the South District, we sincerely appreciate this speaker and definitely everyone that attended this CPD session. We thank you and we hope to see you at our next CPD session next week. Thank you. Okay, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So everyone, the meeting is officially closed, but please turn on your camera so we can, your video, so we can have a group photograph session. Yes, Buki, can you help us do that? Take the pictures. One. Thank you so much. The meeting is officially closed. Please don't forget, as soon as you log off, you get a feedback form, fill it, and any concern or ways you think you can improve, please fill in there. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
Bye. Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Right.